What a head, son! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. And on this video, I'm going to bring you guys the ultimate guide to the upcoming Game Week 32. So normal Game Week, no doubles or blanks in the upcoming Game Week, but we still got a lot of talking points to go over. The biggest one, of course, is going to be probably the title of this video. Should you sell Mo Salah? And if you do, who should you sell him for? But don't worry, I'll also be talking about other things in this ultimate guide, such as which fixtures to kind of target that have double Game Week 33, but also relatively good Game Week 32 fixture. Then finally, to wrap up the video, I'll be going over the captaincy options, as this week, with Man City taking on Liverpool, it could actually be quite an interesting debate, and a really good captain option this week could shoot you up the ranks quite dramatically. If that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So before we get into all the juicy talking points I mentioned in the introduction, I just want to give you guys a reminder about the deadline stream. And this week for Game Week 32, the deadline is going to be on Friday. So tomorrow, if you guys are watching this video on the day of release. But unfortunately, I won't be doing a deadline stream as I am traveling this weekend. So why this is important? Well, if you guys watched my team selection yesterday, if I don't do anything with my team, I probably won't give you guys an update, but obviously I will update you guys on my Twitter page at DayvyFPL if we do maybe get some early team news, or maybe we do get some injury news in the press conferences tomorrow. But if you guys do have any questions, any queries, drop them in the comments down below. I'll try and answer as many as I can tonight, just so that I still give you guys some input on your questions that you would have probably asked in the deadline stream. But the first talking point I wanted to go over was in terms of double Game Week 33, so just kind of refreshing your guys' memory about the upcoming double that we do have. Yes, it is going to be a blank fixture, but I think the doubles are where you guys are going to plan those transfers for. And what I wanted to do is combine the Game Week 32 fixture with the double Game Week fixtures, just to give you guys some context. If you maybe want to bring someone in this week in preparation for Game Week 33, which players should you kind of target? So in terms of the double game weeks, we have 6 teams that have a double, but I've excluded one team. That's going to be Southampton, just because they do take on Chelsea this week, and I can't really think of too many options you want to bring in, even though Chelsea's form hasn't been that great. In terms of the double, I think only if maybe Arsenal play like they did against Crystal Palace, then the Southampton options will be quite nice to bring in, as I think Arsenal at home and Burnley away definitely a great fixture, but maybe some other teams have better ones. In terms of those teams, the first one we're going to touch on is going to be Burnley, who are currently on the edge of the relegation battle after beating Everton yesterday. Unfortunately, Weghorst didn't score. I don't really think many people will be bringing him in, considering the fact that he scored 0.2 XG in both of those games, which isn't too great, but they do have a nice fixture coming up next against Norwich away. So yet another 6-pointer here in terms of the relegation battle, but I do think that Norwich, unfortunately, are going to be relegated this season, so maybe Burnley could take advantage of that and get the 3 points. Then have a nice double game week of West Ham away and Southampton at home. Now both these games could actually be quite tough, quite cagey, and therefore if I was to recommend an option, I probably would say a defender, and I think you should go for Nick Pope if you're going to be going for one. But I think these Burnley options, the only reason you're going to go for them is because you want some budget. Nick Pope, unfortunately, quite expensive. So if you want to go for a Roberts or Lowton, that's perfectly fine, but you might want to be avoiding these assets. In terms of the Arsenal options, they have a very nice fixture this week against Brighton at home. And the thing about Arsenal that's quite attractive is that they are challenging for that top 4 spot, so they almost have to win the upcoming games. So there'll be a lot of pressure on them, and hopefully they get the results. And against Brighton at home, I think that is a game that defensively and from an attacking point of view, they can do quite well in. Unfortunately, with Tierney out, you guys might be shipping him out for another option, but you could always go straight to a Ben White, or maybe even a Gabriel. The double of Southampton away and Chelsea away isn't sensational, but if Chelsea do manage to progress in the Champions League, maybe they could be focused on that competition instead of the Prem. Then moving on to Leicester, definitely have one of the best double game week fixtures of 33. They have Crystal Palace at home, a great fixture there. I've actually upgraded them to a white fixture after they did have a massive performance against Arsenal, but against Leicester I think it's going to be quite a high scoring game, and therefore those attackers like a Harvey Barnes and a Maddison could be quite great. But definitely what I would do is wait for that game tonight that Leicester will be taking on. I think they are playing in the Conference League, so just monitor the situation there. If Maddison plays, if Barnes plays, they might be rested on the weekend, and that might also prove quite dangerous for their game week 33 minutes. But Newcastle away and Everton away, 2 great fixtures, 2 green fixtures on my own rating system, and therefore I think if you guys want to bring in a midfielder, maybe at that mid-range department, whoever doesn't play in the Europe competition, I would probably bring those players in. One of the interesting occurrences that's happened this week is that Jamie Vardy won't be match fit anytime soon, and therefore Adako and Iheanacho could be an interesting option. And what people are saying is that Rodgers favours one for the Prem and one for the Europe competition, so just kind of deciding which one's which. The second last team, Newcastle, have Wolves at home, which I actually think could be a nice fixture to go for. No doubt Jimenez after his suspension, so from an attacking point of view, Wolves might struggle, and Newcastle's defense has actually been quite solid under Eddie Howe. So Dubravka, Burn, maybe even a Target or a Saar, all those options look quite strong. And also from an attacking point of view, you could always go for a Gucci St. Maximum, maybe even a Chris Wood. The nice thing is that they have 3 home fixtures upcoming, and they have been a lot better at St. James's Park, and therefore I would recommend one of their options if you guys want to go for a more budget player. But then finally, probably the most popular team to go for in terms of the double game week, it's going to be Manchester United, who have Everton away this week, which isn't actually that bad of a fixture. I just worry a little bit about United. They might choke a bit here. Everton have to win that game. Could be quite a cagey one. But the Norwich at home is a great fixture in double game week 33. Yes, the Liverpool game is a little bit of a bad one there. It's probably going to be a 2-pointer for most of their assets, but I do think a Norwich at home game kind of tips it on the scale for an average game week. But I just want to kind of remind you guys about the double game week 33 fixtures, and a lot of attention has gone to double game week 36, 37, but the upcoming double also could be quite a nice way to gain an advantage. But now going on to the biggest talking point of this video, and as I mentioned in the introduction, probably what this video is going to be titled, should you sell Mo Salah and who for? So right off the bat, if you guys do sell Mo Salah, you have to be an absolute maverick manager because his effective ownership in the top 10k is currently 97.3%. I know that's not exactly effective ownership as it's not really incorporating captaincy, but in terms of his ownership in the top 10k, it's just below 100%. So the reason why people are considering selling Mo Salah is that the form is not really there. I'll talk about the stats a little bit later on, and in terms of the fixtures also don't look that great for the upcoming game weeks. Now I did mention this and I went over the game week schedule, or at least the fixture schedule for Liverpool in the team selection yesterday, but I'm going to bring it up on screen right now again as I don't really think I spoke about it enough. So in terms of the next 5 fixtures that Liverpool do have, they've got Man City away in the Prem, 3 days later Benfica at home, which they currently have a 3-1 lead, so maybe Mo Salah could be rested there. They then travel 3 days later to Man City again in the FA Cup, where I do think Klopp will play his strongest 11, even though historically he hasn't really favoured the domestic cups. Then 3 days later, hosts Manchester United at home, and then 5 days after that has Everton at home again in the Prem. So the fixture schedule here is a little bit rough, and you must remember if Liverpool do progress in the Champions League, they'll have another kind of a semi-final after that Everton game, which would be quite a close one. But I honestly am expecting Mo Salah to play most of the Prem games, and therefore from an FPL point of view, we don't have to worry too much. So in the team selection yesterday, I kind of might have been a little bit sided to maybe saying that he would be rested, but I don't really think that. I think for the Prem games and the FPL games, he should be fine. And if he is going to be rested, it probably will be in that Benfica at home game in the Champions League. So if you guys are concerned about some rotation, I really wouldn't. I think on that right wing spot, Mo Salah is pretty nailed in that Liverpool starting 11. And I think the centre forward and the left wing will be where Luis Diaz, Mane, Firmino and Jota all rotate. But I think if you guys do sell Salah and he magically gets rotated in maybe the Everton or United game, which I don't think so, that'll probably be the cherry on top if you do take him out. But the conclusion to this is that you have to be absolutely maverick to take Mo Salah out because of his ownership, but also I don't think he'll be rotated any of the FPL games. Now we're going to jump to the captaincy for double game week 33, and you might be asking me why am I talking about Mo Salah and not talking about captaincy, but I promise you that these 2 points are related. So what I want you guys to do is go over to your own FPL team, just think about if you're not going to use a chip, maybe who you're going to captain. Even if you're going to use a chip such as a free hit or wild card, I would consider who you're going to captain, as that captaincy decision is quite a tough one. I've kind of nailed it down to my 3 favorite options yet. Now I don't own all 3 of these, but I do think if you have to kind of set out who to captain, these 3 options would be the best. The first one is going to be Cristiano Ronaldo, so CL7 or Bruno Fernandes. Please remember, as I always say, if I do highlight a certain player, any player from that team that's on a high caliber such as Bruno Fernandes could also be captained, so I'm going to just highlight Ronaldo here because I do think it'll be the more popular option. So Ronaldo has Norwich at home and Liverpool away, and if he does start both of those games, I do think he'll be the best option to go for, at least the most popular option to go for, but I do think he'll get you some more points than the single game week players. Now, as I said, Bruno Fernandes, Ronaldo, that's going to be a tough debate to go for. I think it'll be kind of decided on who you own, a Son or a Kane, as that's quite an easy route to go for. But now with Mo Salah, you could always downgrade him to Bruno Fernandes, which we will talk about shortly. Now, in terms of the next 2 options, I think Harvey Barnes, if he does start both, has great fixtures on paper, Newcastle away, Everton away. But as I mentioned, there's going to be heavy rotation with the Europe competition, and therefore I think you guys have to be really confident he starts both to put the armband on him. The final option is going to be Saka with Southampton away and Chelsea away. The Chelsea fixture isn't that great, similar to kind of United with the Liverpool game, but against Southampton away with the must-win game in hand with that top 4, I think they should do quite well in this one. But out of these 3 options, the one that I would definitely go for, as I feel more comfortable that they'll play 90 minutes, and I think that Norwich game is going to be quite strong, it's going to be Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes. Now in terms of projected points from Fantasy Football Fix, you'll actually see that Harvey Barnes is projected to score the most points in double game week 33, but obviously that's assuming that he plays both games. So 9.9 for Harvey Barnes, but 9.4 for Ronaldo. Bruno Fernandes is actually around that similar mark, so both of these two assets should be quite strong. And unfortunately with Saka, 7.7 projected points for double game week 33. So let's just say the projected points did come about. I would probably captain Saka if I don't take Salah out, but if I do, I'll probably go for a Bruno or Ronaldo, and that's going to be quite a lot of points gained. But the reason I actually want to talk about captaincy is that with Mo Salah, with the next two against Man City and United, I don't think I'll captain him in either game week, and therefore is it worth keeping him or moving him on for an option that I would actually go for? So we've spoken about the brief introduction with the fixtures, we've spoken about the captaincy. Would you guys captain Mo Salah in game week 32 or double game week 33? Probably not. But now let's go on to another spectrum, and that's going to be the stats. So what I did was I went over to Fantasy Football Fix and went for their Opta Stats Toolbox or Sandbox, and I took the last 4 fixtures that all these players have featured in. Now yes, 4 games is a very small sample size, and I know a small sample size is not really great for doing stats projections, but I do think if we can kind of trace Mo Salah's dip in form, it's been the last 4 games, as previously against Leeds he actually did quite well. But what you guys can do is go over to Fantasy Football Fix or whatever stats website you do, put more games in if you think that Mo Salah should have more games or the sample should be larger, but I just wanted to clarify here that this is 4 games, and yes, I do know that's quite a small sample size. So in terms of the stats, I always like to kind of go for expected versus reality. So I've gone for expected FPL points versus real FPL points, expected goals versus real goals, and then finally shots on target, just because I want my forward or my premium midfielder to have a couple shots on target every game. Now the players I have compared Mo Salah to are going to be Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne and Heung-min Son. I do think Bruno and KDB will probably be the 2 that you guys look at, but I just wanted to include Heung-min Son here. If you guys don't own him and you own a Harry Kane, maybe Son could be an outside punt to go for. And if we do look at expected points, all these stats are per game averages, we can see that Heung-min Son is the top there with 6.9 points. Kevin De Bruyne comes in just less with 6.8, and then finally Bruno with 5.4 and Salah with 5.3. Now what you also must remember is that these 4 players are priced differently, Mo Salah obviously being the most expensive, so 5.3 isn't too great in my eyes. When we move on to actual reality FPL points scored, we can see Mo Salah has scored 4.0, so kind of underachieving there. Bruno Fernandes as well, 3.3, underachieving even more. And then with KDB and Heung-min Son, they're overperforming with 8.8 and 8.0. When we move on to expected goals, we can see Mo Salah and Bruno with 0.5, we got KDB with 0.3, and the leader Heung-min Son with 0.6. So relatively fine stats in my eyes there, half a goal kind of per game that Mo Salah and Bruno are looking at. And then when we take it to actual goals, we can see a slight underperformance from Mo Salah, 0.3, but then we have Bruno with 0.0 and KDB and Son with 0.8. So yet again, you can kind of see the overperforming in the FPL points and also the real goals with 0.8 for 0.3, 0.6 for 0.8 for KDB and Son. But yet again, we're seeing here that Mo Salah is kind of underperforming his stats, but his actual expected goals aren't too great. Finally, in terms of shots on target, because as you remember, Mo Salah takes a ton of shots on target usually, doesn't score all of them, but usually gets quite a lot of chances in the games. 1.5 shots per game for Mo Salah, 1.3 for Bruno, 2.3 for KDB, which is quite impressive considering the fact that he's more of a deeper lying midfielder, not really a winger like a Mo Salah or Son. Then Son is 1.7. So in terms of the stats here, at least compared to the rivals like a KDB, a Son and a Bruno, Mo Salah seems to be kind of underperforming what he usually would go for, but at least the stats aren't looking too bad. And in terms of fixture difficulty, it's not even like in the last 4, Mo Salah has been playing kind of very hard oppositions. I mean, against Watford at home in game week 31, he only got 3 points. But as I said, in terms of the stats not looking that strong, I think Mo Salah usually performs better than this, but at least his stats aren't really as bad as maybe people are saying. But finally, now that we've actually looked at the stats, let's go to the fixtures. And as you guys know, I'm a fixture FPL manager, so when I do conclude this fixture point, you probably will understand which way I'm kind of swaying to. So in terms of Mo Salah, the next 2 fixtures, Man City away and Man United at home, and unfortunately the next 2 against both Manchester clubs aren't that strong in my opinion. So yes, in game week 9, Mo Salah went on an absolute maverick game against them and scored 3 goals and 1 assist. I do remember that because I didn't captain him, as I thought this would be a tough game. So kind of deja vu's hitting me right again, but I think this time at least the form's kind of backing me up. And what you guys have to do if you're looking to take Mo Salah out is you kind of have to project your own points here and what you think you'll score against Man City and United. So in terms of the Man City game, I think it's going to be quite a cagey one. I think both sides want to kind of win that. Both sides don't want to lose it. So we might see a 0-0, a boring game at the end of the day. But I do think Man City's defense is looking slightly stronger than Liverpool's. But now let's compare him to the next 2 options. So in terms of the next option, it's Kevin De Bruyne. I already own Heung-min Son, so I'm not going to kind of compare Salah to him. But in terms of KDB, he has Liverpool at home and Brighton at home. I guess the only thing with KDB is if he's going to start both games, I think he might, especially if that Liverpool game is quite a cagey one or at least a draw. The Premier League title will still be on there, and I think both sides will go for a strong team. So in terms of Liverpool at home, I think that's going to be quite a close one in terms of Mo Salah. I've already stated. I think let's assume that also that's a 3-pointer. But then against Brighton at home, historically they always do well against Brighton, so that could be even 2 attacking returns. But the thing about KDB that I also don't like is that you probably won't captain him in game week 33, and therefore the option I'd probably go for is Bruno Fernandes with that double game week. So Everton away this week, I think you'll outperform Salah in that game. Then you have Norwich at home and Liverpool away. Let's kind of discard that Liverpool game because I think that'll be a 2-pointer for Ronaldo and Bruno. But that Norwich at home game looks really outstanding, and as I mentioned, United have to win to stay in that top 4 race. Now the big thing for me about Bruno is that if I do bring him in for Salah, I will captain him. First maybe captaining a Saka if I do keep the Egyptian. So do I think that Bruno will outperform Saka? I actually do think so, and that's why in terms of the fixtures, I do think the Salah to Bruno move does make sense. Now will I do it? Probably not. I think I'm a little bit scarred from that game week 9 not captaining Mo Salah, and therefore I think I might just keep the Egyptian and go for a Saka captain come game week 33. As per se, I think I have to play a little bit conservative where I am in the current overall standings. But what I'm trying to say to you is that the Salah to Bruno move does make sense in my eyes, and if I do gain the courage, I might do it, but right now I think I'll just keep Salah because the stats look fine, and I think he can go in form in any of the fixtures. So now we've spoken about Mo Salah, and that was quite a long talking point. I'm going to go quite quickly over captaincy for double game week 32, and there are some interesting options and some more differentials that I think you guys can go for. So any week that we're not going to captain Mo Salah will be an interesting week for captaincy, but it's going to be another premium that I would probably go for in terms of my best captaincy option. And that option is going to be none other than Harry Kane, who has Aston Villa away. So currently Spurs are on great form, Aston Villa on bad form, and therefore I think Harry Kane should actually do quite well in this game. And I think he'll be my favorite option and definitely the most popular one for game week 32. If you guys don't own Kane, a Heung-min Son is perfectly fine to go for as well. My personal option this week will be Heung-min Son, and therefore I can recommend both of these 2 assets to you. But if you guys do want to go more differential, there's an option from Leeds, and his name is Rafinha, who has Watford away. So in terms of Watford away, you guys might have seen a stat over on Twitter that Watford have actually conceded a lot of chances on Rafinha's side, and therefore he might be a nice little differential captain. Leeds are still in the relegation battle with Watford, so this will be quite a cagey game, might be a high scoring one. If I have to go for my prediction, I would say maybe a 2-1 to Leeds, and I think that Rafinha could be involved in both goals. But if you guys don't want to go that maverick, you could also go for a more safer option. That's going to be Saka as Brighton at home. We've mentioned with Spurs the top 4 race. Arsenal, it's the exact same with them. They have to win this game against Brighton, and Saka's the main attacking outlet. I just really hope that he doesn't go to a defensive position with the injury to Tierney. But I think this week will be a week to go kind of safety, and that's why I think the Spurs assets will be quite strong as the form is there, the fixture's okay, so I think there's no reason not to go for them. But let me know in the comments down below who you guys are going to go for in terms of your captain for game week 32. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for loads more content next week in preparation for that double/blank game week 33. But as I said, no deadline stream, so get those questions and queries down below. But I'm going to sign off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.